The city doesn't seem to have the will to do anything more than perpetrating a pointless existence for these people.
The Montavilla neighborhood hosted a town hall today to address concerns on the planned safe park coming to the area. The city plans to transform a former RV dealership lot into an area where folks can sleep in their cars and access support services. But nearby residents are worried about their safety. Thanks for joining us tonight for K2 News at 11. I'm Barry Mangold. We start with K2 News' Emily Gerch, who joins us live from our live desk now with more on this. Emily, Mayor Ted Wheeler took questions on this today.
Well, Barry, we spoke with residents who say they're worried the site may bring more crime and drug use to their neighborhood, although site organizers insist that won't happen. Dozens of concerned residents in the Montavilla neighborhood attended a town hall Saturday afternoon to get information and share their concerns regarding a planned homeless community.
We are saturated with crime. We can't take in any more crime. We're up to here with it.
Elizabeth Litster has lived in the neighborhood for 20 years. She says for the past several years, crime has risen, and she doesn't think building a homeless community will help.
Instead, they seem to be bringing in higher concentrations of homeless, which equals, wherever they go, more crime, garbage, rats, needles, and a lot of these people are mentally ill. And they end up being victimized by the drug dealers and the criminals who are taking advantage of them.
The Joint Office of Homeless Services plans to transform the former RV dealership on 82nd Avenue into a safe park, a place where homeless people can safely park their cars to sleep in. Nonprofit provider Straightway Services will be managing the site.
We're there to build in the community, never to tear down.
Straightway CEO Pastor Dwight Manyweather says the site will also serve as an access point to wraparound services.
We're not just going to be a place for people to lay their heads. We're going to be that place where they can reframe and readdress their issues and get mental health provisions, get anything that they need on that ground. We're going to be providing so many wraparound services, employment.
Mayor Ted Wheeler also attended the town hall. He says the site will only be open to people seeking those services.
For everybody else, we're going to continue to restrict the areas where people can camp in an unsanctioned manner.
We hear from a lot of people who want to see the human suffering on our streets stop. They don't want to see camps on sidewalks or in public areas anymore. How will these bills accomplish that?
Thank you for asking, and absolutely, this is one of the top issues on every voter's mind right now. There is no shortage of people who want action, and what these bills will do is take unprecedented early coordinated action across all levels of government to make sure that we have resources on the ground to address this in the most urgent way possible.
So what that really means is that we're addressing the governor's emergency order on homelessness, but we're also bringing homeless and housing support to all across the state, including those counties not included in her original declaration. And we're also providing important support for homeless youth. There's a lot going on here.
Maxine, when will these bills make a difference people can see?
Thank you. So one of the things that they'll do is fund in full the governor's emergency order, which will shelter people living on the street. It will keep people who are housing insecure in their homes, and it will rehouse people. So we'll build shelter beds, and we're going to rehouse people who are already unsheltered and houseless on our streets. In addition, with the policy package, we are going to invest an unprecedented $25 million in youth experiencing homelessness and their families, as well as making sure that we're building innovative models of homes with modular units, and we're really changing how we can build at the local level to do what really is the core root of all of this problem, is that we don't have enough housing units available for the people who need them.
How soon will this start, though? Next week?
Well, I think it's important to understand that we've already got things going on. We've been working on a number of projects. I think of Project Turnkey in my communities that are turning old hotels into homeless shelters. Those are getting up, they're getting running, they're making a difference. What we've got with the measure this week is a big jump forward with a lot more resources that are a lot more focused. And so we're going to be able to see that start making a larger difference very, very quickly.
How many new shelter beds and new homes will be built as a result of this funding, assuming it passes the Senate and then goes on to the governor?
There will be 600 new shelter beds with the $130 million allocation. In addition, there are other funds available across the rest of Oregon to be used in a community-focused way. So it's impossible to say how many in the end. Hopefully it'll be more than 600, but we are absolutely committed to making sure that we execute the plan as defined by our governor for those 600 new shelter beds.
David, what kind of impact will the homes and shelter beds Maxine just mentioned really have on the housing shortage in Oregon?
Well, it depends what part of Oregon you're in. The original declaration by the governor covered the major metropolitan portions of the state. You know, when you issue an executive order, you're required to say where, when, and how much. And so there's limitations on that. But the legislature stepped in and said, we're not just going to cover the major metropolitan areas. We're going to cover all of the other rural communities across the state, coastal Oregon, southern Oregon, eastern Oregon. And there's a separate program for that, which is going to be taking effect in a slightly different way. But the main message here is that we're reaching out to all parts of Oregon. Housing and homelessness is not just an urban problem, it's an Oregon problem.
Maxine, there will also be changes to Oregon's state land use system. Tell us about some of those changes.
Absolutely. And just to finish answering the second part of your question, which is how many housing units, that's directly related to this. So we are going to be doing all that we can to meet the expectation and the goal set by Governor Kotek to build 36,000 new units each year. That's going to take time to get there. And the Oregon Housing Needs Analysis portion of HB 2001, which we just passed yesterday, is really going to make sure that we use local guidance and information to create a plan for how those structures are going to be built in every community across our state. And then in collaboration with the state, making sure that barriers are removed to that construction, whether it's building infrastructure like sewer systems and roads, or whether it's getting capacity with staff, which are in short supply, like planners and engineers who can help in areas where they don't have ready staff, can really get on the ground and build as quickly as we possibly can.
Among those changes, each city with more than 10,000 residents will have a yearly target to build new subsidized and market rate homes. David, what happens if they don't meet their targets?
Well, I think it's important to understand when we're looking at an investment like this that we have some accountability. And this bill includes requirements that the Department of Housing Community Services report back to the legislature, to our housing committees, and to our Ways and Means Committee quarterly on the kind of progress they're making in every part of the state. So we're going to be hearing back on the kind of accomplishments we're making, the kind of results that we're producing with these steps. Accountability has got to be an important part of these kind of investments.
Certainly there will be critics who say cities should be able to make their own decisions about where and how they grow. Maxine, how would you combat that criticism?
We agree. The cities are going to be engaged in this. This is a partnership. This is not a top-down decision that every city is going to build in the same way. What we really need to do is identify where the gaps are at every income level, at every affordability level, and then address those gaps. And it will be the local jurisdictions that decide how those will be met, and then they will be held accountable for hitting the goals that they themselves make or set in with the information that the needs analysis will give them.
I understand that it's unprecedented to have this big piece of legislation so early in the session and have it pass. That raises some concerns about spending so much money so early in the session, especially during uncertain economic times. A question for both of you. David, you answer first. Your response to those concerns.
Well, look, we've got a crisis on our hands. I don't think anybody questions that. And those of us that are here in the legislature, most of us just came through an election season where housing and homelessness was the first topic raised at every single gathering we went to. It was critical that we step up quickly. You know, we could have put this off. We could have waited till the end of session. We could have passed a bill that didn't go into effect until August or September. And people would have been hurting between now and then. We wanted to take some big initial steps to address this critical problem. And I expect that we're going to be doing more work before the session is over with.
That's exactly right. This is a down payment. We know that this is an area that we must take action. There's no question that this is our top priority. It's remarkable when you have Republicans and Democrats and land use planners and environmentalists all in the same room saying, we absolutely need to take action, and this is a crisis. And so we are responding to that with unprecedented early action.
The bipartisan nature certainly welcomed sight for many Oregonians. Representative Maxine Dexter and Representative David Gomberg, we really appreciate your time this morning.